Hello, I'm Jim Morningstar, Director of the School of Integrative Psychology and facilitator of the 9-session Integrative Life Teacher Training. I am delighted today to be interviewing Jayne Ader, a graduate of the School of Integrative Psychology who is taught in our school and breathwork training programs. She's a certified professional breathworker and body therapist. Fluent in Spanish, she is a former co-director of a prominent Latino resource center in our city and continues to be active in cross-cultural healing. Jayne, would you share with us a little bit about what called you to being a teacher and perhaps some of the ways that you've done this formally and informally in your life?
Well, it's interesting. The word teacher feels like I imagine the people that are in school settings holding space for a lot of students throughout the day, which is a lot of work. And I see myself even more as a facilitator of wisdom, my own, and that dialogue with the wisdom with the participants. So I really like the concept of community, and community has always been really an important piece for me, something that I've been a part of in so many different ways in my life. And so for me, teaching or facilitating is an opportunity to be in community and hold space for community and allow for us as a group to bring out our own wisdom and bring forward a lot of solutions and a lot of beautiful understandings that can help support us in our lives and living more fully. I think of that as coming from the group or the circle that I'm teaching or facilitating, as well as from the guidance of our spiritual support around us. And so for me, teaching is just a wonderful way of participating with community and helping us all to really go for our highest.
Yes, I've seen you do that in our community in many different settings. And what got you into teaching, or where did these experiences first start for you?
One of the funny stories that came to me today was I volunteered in Chile for a couple of years in my early 20s. And we were supposed to be presence there that listened to the community in the countryside and helped provide what it was that they were needing or wanting in their lives. One of the things that surprised me that I was not in a place that I would normally want to teach is they requested that I teach aerobics. Now, I was a very book person at the time and very intellectual, and I definitely wasn't somebody that exercised a lot. And so for them to ask me to teach aerobics was a huge challenge. But they had a lot of patience, and I would teach every week the same routine. And finally, I actually went to a seminar, week-long seminar on trauma healing facilitated in Chile. And then I started to share some of the guided imagery and some Tai Chi after the aerobic session. And so interestingly, this invitation by the community to teach aerobics helped me to step more into natural healing work, which is really the work that I do now. It helped me to understand not only that it was a nice idea, but how powerful it was as I watched the women that I taught and how they responded to it. In fact, if I didn't teach it, there was a lot of commotion because it really, from their perspective, helped them to enter their day in a really peaceful, centered way, even if it was just 5 minutes. So from that experience, I started to open my own mind and hearts to natural healing modalities and to self-development, self-growth. And it really was one of the seeds that helped me to go along this path of natural healing and teaching and facilitating wellness in many other settings since then, such as in schools, with adults in the community. Done a lot of teaching in Spanish, working with you in the breathwork workshops, and also teaching my own workshops along with Lenny Del Vecchio as well.
Well, that's a story I haven't heard before because we've been friends for many, many years, Jayne. And I didn't know that, just as you said, the community inspired you on your path.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. A lot of the organization that we developed, a lot of the environment of that organization, the ideas came from partly from my time in the community in Chile, and then from the community in Milwaukee, the Mexican community in Milwaukee. A lot of the natural ability to be present to one another and to really uh, value relationships and compassion in the natural community of family were a lot of the things that informed me as I was helping to develop that organization.
What were some of the things that were inspirational for you in terms of doing this cross-cultural work with your fluency in Spanish? Of course, you were a tremendous resource here, but you also drew from many of your other learning and teaching experiences. What were some inspirational things that you saw in working with the Latino community here?
I feel like I was taught a lot about how important it is to just be present. It was hard actually from when I started working with the Latino community in Chile and then here. I was so used to moving on to the next thing, moving on to the next thing, just fast pace that we can be in the United States. And immigrant community taught me a lot about how important it is to be present, to take some time to slow down. In fact, often when I would go into work, they would remind me to say good morning and things that I would skip natural, things I would just be right on to the task. And so the community's really been, the Latino community's been really informative for me and helped me to get centered, to stay present, and to help me look at life as it's one step at a time, and just to really value and have a lot of gratitude for what I have in the moment, what I have today. And then I have been able to share that sense of gratitude with others in many communities.
It's wonderful. And part of your skill set, I also know, is being trained as a massage therapist and a body worker. How have you integrated that into your community work?
I feel like a lot of what I see in our world is a lot of trauma. I've worked for many years with trauma, with people that have been survivors of a variety of forms of trauma. And one of the things that many trauma survivors talk about is how they feel like they're a head walking around without a body. And so what body work has helped me to do, both by receiving it myself and by sharing it with others, is helped me to understand how to help people to bring themselves more into their bodies and for us to have a relationship with our bodies that's trusting again. So a lot of times survivors of any kind of violence, we really need to help ourselves to reconnect with our bodies, our minds with our bodies, our spirits with our bodies, and to trust again. And as we live more in our bodies, we are able to enjoy our lives more fully and walk in greater safety and walk in greater connection and vitality. And so body work has helped me to understand that on a real visceral level.
I understand also that on a personal level, it has helped you in terms of your own healing process.
Taught for many years about how it's important to listen to our bodies because our bodies can let us know about, help us prevent injury, help us to stay healthy, the more that deeply we listen. And this past year, I've had the experience, a very, very personal experience of basically intuitively and physically and with some support of other natural health practitioners detecting cancer. And so because I was listening deeply to my body and I was willing to question and advocate for myself in the medical world, I was able to get a CT scan and we found a tumor probably a year ahead of when we would have found it, which I feel like and I believe would prevented a stroke and other more major complications from that tumor and who knows what else. So now I'm much healthier because of that. And the body work also was a huge part of my healing. One of the things that we did in that process was a healing circle. And that healing circle again was another communal experience where friends facilitated. And in that facilitation, I really was able to bring that healing with me along the journey of surgery and radiation and recovery.
Which I am so glad for, Jayne. So glad to have you here and with us.
Today's the 1 year anniversary
Oh,
of the CT. Yeah.
congratulations. It's like we continue to get reborn in our life. And that's another skill set that I know you have is breath work. How has that played a role for you personally and professionally?
Personally, breathwork's been such a gift. It's helped me to live more in my own body and to helped me to release barriers that I've held just by living, right? That or ideas that blocked me from really more fully living my purpose. So I've felt since doing a lot of breathwork just more joyful and grateful as well, and a sense of love for many people, for my community. So I feel like that breathwork has helped me to eliminate barriers that were keeping me from that. Your ideas, mental barriers or physical barriers, really helped me to open up my heart a lot. Well. And on a professional level, it's a gift. I find it very powerful. People are able to get to places that they weren't able to get by just processing in their minds. They've been able to release or to find solutions that it was hard to get to through a mental path. We've worked with a combination of breath work, and then they will process some of that with myself, or they'll process it with their therapist, and that's worked beautifully as well. So there's a lot of aspects of breath work that have just been so powerful for the clients that I've worked with, and I'm grateful to have that tool.
And this has worked cross-culturally. Is that true?
Yes, and one of the things that I found really amazing is that many of the clients that I've worked with have not been able to return to their own countries. And it's been, for example, maybe 17, 20 years, and they'll have family members that will pass away. And so breathwork has been a really beautiful tool to help people to get to a place of self-forgiveness and releasing guilt, and has its ability to, in a way, to say, to put closure to the loss that they've experienced. So that very specific way has been powerful, and I've enjoyed working with people. I feel like it's a tool that brings a lot of hope to our clients and helps to, again, release a lot of grieving and pain. One of the things I really appreciate about breath work and all this work is that we often, when we're survivors of trauma, we believe that we have to walk around in the world like that, like this big heavy load carried on our back. And breath work and other tools like this actually can lift that load, and we can walk a lot lighter.
That's beautiful. What do you see as the cutting edge for you, so to speak, in terms of where you would like to let this road of teaching lead you in your life?
I continue to love bringing communities together to find ways that we can draw multiple communities together and in healing. And that's here in Milwaukee. I've been doing that with my colleague Lenny, and also I'm very interested in continuing to do that internationally as well, and finding ways that we can unite communities, bring healing, and find the power in that healing.
Well, I certainly partner with you in that, Jayne, and I'm so glad that you bring your skill set, not only in your work with bodies, but in your work with cross-cultural communication and your reverence for the intelligence of community and how that is so much more than any one of us can access just by ourselves. So thank you so much for being in my life and in my community and being a co-worker in terms of sharing this with our world.
Thank you. Thanks for all of your work.